The tale of mafia families continues into 2023. Cartels rule the streets in almost every big city in the world, and law enforcement authorities have failed to end their terrorizing reign despite trying. From New York's rough streets to Chicago's back alleyways and beyond, here are 10 dynamic criminal families and intriguing bosses that keep the underworld's heartbeats thumping.
By stealing ration stamps during World War II, Gambino made his next black market million.
Number 1. Gambino family. The Gambino crime family, one of the most infamous and powerful Italian-American mafia families, has left an unmistakable influence on both the criminal underground and popular culture. The Gambino family, named for its founder, Salvatore Toto d'Aquila, has a long history stretching back to the early 20th century, rising to prominence via unlawful operations such as racketeering, extortion, loan sharking, and more. Carlo Gambino, who took control in the mid-20th century, led the family to its pinnacle of dominance. Carlo's leadership was marked by a more covert and disciplined approach to organized crime, which allowed the Gambino family to enter many businesses and gain influence over unions, construction, and gambling. This time of relative calm and low-profile activities allowed the family to thrive without drawing too much notice from police authorities. The high-profile demise of Paul Castellano by John Gotti in 1985 was one of the most infamous Gambino crime family occurrences. This brazen attack indicated a shift in leadership and style, as John Gotti developed a more flamboyant and public-facing character, garnering him the moniker the Teflon Don for his ability to avoid conviction in many trials. Gotti's charm and media-savvy techniques, however, led to his downfall in 1992, when he was convicted of taking people's lives and racketeering charges. Following Gotti's arrest, the Gambino family experienced a succession of leadership changes, as well as internal power battles and law enforcement crackdowns. The official boss, Domenico Cefalù, began his career in 1990 with the Sicilian Zip Crew commanded by Captain Pasquale Conti. Cefalù's background includes his reluctance to testify against Conti, which resulted in jail time for civil contempt. He rose through the ranks to become the family's underboss in 2005, in charge of the Sicilian faction. Cefalù's tenure was tarnished by legal entanglements, as indicated by his 2008 arrests on racketeering, conspiracy, and extortion charges, which resulted in a 2-year jail sentence. Following his release in 2009, he climbed to the position of formal leader in July 2011. A succession of interim managers, notably Lorenzo Menino, ran the family's affairs under his supervision. After completing a 15-year jail sentence for drug trafficking and manslaughter conspiracy, Lorenzo Menino, a senior player in the family's Sicilian side, took over as acting boss. He succeeded Frankie Boy Cali, who passed away in 2019. Menino's lengthy association with the Gambino family administration, as well as his influence inside the Sicilian faction, highlight his importance in the family's contemporary dynamics. Number 2. New England Mafia. The New England Mafia, often known as the Patriarca crime family, has a long history in the northeastern United States criminal underground. Beginning in the early 20th century, the family has left an indelible stamp on New England organized crime, engaging in a variety of unlawful operations and surviving decades of law enforcement attempts. The New England Mafia has its origins in the wave of Italian immigration to the United States. During the Prohibition era, when the demand for illegal alcohol created a rich opportunity for criminal businesses, the family's dominance began to consolidate. The family swiftly extended their enterprises, including gambling, loan sharking, and labor union infiltration. The Patriarca criminal family has been involved in several major confrontations and power struggles throughout its existence. Internal conflicts and external rivalry led to violent clashes and leadership changes throughout the 1960s and 1970s. The family's reach went beyond its New England roots, having ties to other organized crime groups around the country. Carmen Sal, aka the Big Cheese D'Annunzio, who was born in 1957, rose to prominence within the Patriarca criminal family. It's no wonder why this man got the Big Cheese. His criminal career took form as he ascended through the ranks, eventually becoming the organization's second-in-command. D'Annunzio's links to the family's activities were cemented by his relationship with Anthony D'Annunzio, a fellow mobster and former acting head of the organization. When D'Annunzio became chief of the Patriarca criminal family, his leadership role took on a new dimension. His management style and techniques reflect the family's efforts to adapt to new law enforcement tactics and criminal environments. The ascension of D'Annunzio to the top of the family hierarchy emphasizes the significance of familial relationships and connections inside the complicated network of organized crime. His career as the current ruler of the Patriarca criminal family exemplifies the organization's tenacity and capacity to thrive in the face of adversity. Power battles, internal rivalries, and law enforcement crackdowns have influenced the family's growth, and D'Annunzio's leadership extends this tradition into a new era. The persistent presence of the New England Mafia exemplifies the complex dynamics of organized crime in the United States. The family's capacity to adapt and persevere in the face of tragedy highlights the intricate interplay of tradition, loyalty, and survival inside the criminal underground. Number 3. Genovese family. The Genovese crime family has had several leaders throughout the years, and Liborio Bellomo appears to be the most likely candidate for the position of boss. However, in order to truly comprehend this story, a trip back in time is required. Founded by Charles Lucky Luciano, the family was known as the Luciano family from 1931 until 1957, before being renamed in honor of boss Vito Genovese. This is the oldest and most powerful of the 5 families that run organized crime activities in New York and New Jersey. Liborio Bellomo is the current president. The Genovese family's beginnings may be traced back to the Morello gang, a pioneering mafia family in New York City founded by the notorious Giuseppe Morello. During the Castellamarese period, Joe Masseria expanded his power by engaging in extortion, loan sharking, and illicit gaming. This growth prompted the hiring of crucial players such as Charles Lucky Luciano and Vito Genovese, both of whom would go on to hold significant authority in the world of organized crime. Masseria's feud with Salvatore Maranzano sparked the Castellamarese War, in which Luciano switched sides. Luciano organized Masseria's killing in secret with Maranzano, allowing Maranzano's rise. However, Luciano's plans went further. He planned Maranzano's demise and thereby took control. Despite his confinement, Luciano continued to plan actions from behind bars. Meanwhile, Genovese went to Naples to avoid prosecution. Luciano nominated Frank Costello as interim chief, paving the way for Genovese's eventual return. After an unsuccessful assassination attempt on Costello, he resigned, thereby turning over control to Genovese. A succession of leaders followed him, notably Vincent the Chin Gigante, who notoriously pretended to be insane by strolling the streets of Greenwich Village in undergarments. The Genovese family is well known for placing strategic capos in crucial leadership posts. Gigante's reputation as a prominent capo di tutti capi, boss of all bosses, lives on despite the position's dissolution in 1931. Law enforcement found it difficult to obtain damning evidence against Gigante due to his peculiarity and reclusive lifestyle. Gigante's rule soon ended, with the family falling under the control of people like Liborio Bellomo, who rose to prominence within the family's power structure. Bellomo, on the other hand, had his fair share of legal problems, including prosecutions under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. However, some charges were dropped, and his family leadership endured, as indicated by his ultimate release from prison. Number 4. Buffalo family. The Buffalo crime family, a powerful syndicate within the American Mafia, has a long history in the city of Buffalo, New York, organized crime environment. With roots in the early 20th century, the family established itself as a strong force in illegal operations, leaving an unmistakable impact on the city's underground. The Buffalo crime family dates back to the Prohibition era when Italian immigrants in Buffalo began building criminal networks. The family immediately established a big presence in the local criminal environment, engaging in crimes such as gambling, loan sharking, and labor union manipulation. The family's power grew when it entered the illicit alcohol trade, seizing on Prohibition's demand for bootlegged whiskey. Power struggles and terrible battles have marked the family's history. The Castellamarese War, which raged in the 1930s, was one of the most notorious battles. The Buffalo crime family became involved in the greater struggle for control within the American Mafia, siding with the Castellamarese faction against Joseph "Joe the Boss" Masseria's troops. The conclusion of this battle, characterized by the killing of Masseria and the ascent of Lucky Luciano, changed the Mafia's national balance of power. According to recent reports, Joseph A. Todaro Jr., also known as Big Joe, is a key position in the family's current leadership. Todaro Jr., who was born in 1945, is best known as the proprietor of La Nova Pizzeria, a well-known pizzeria business in western New York. His father, Joseph Todaro Sr., was a pivotal figure in the history of the Buffalo crime family, Todaro Jr., and his father has been accused of being a leader in the American Mafia, namely the Buffalo crime family. Todaro Jr., on the other hand, has angrily disputed the claims. Because of the family's participation and influence in organized crime, there has been conjecture regarding their positions in the syndicate's hierarchy. The Todaro family's purported ties to the Buffalo crime family's leadership show the family's long-standing presence inside the criminal organization. The history of the Buffalo crime family exemplifies the growth and persistence of organized crime in the United States. Despite evolving landscapes and law enforcement crackdowns, the family has managed to maintain its influence in Buffalo and abroad, adjusting to changes while preserving its criminal past. Number 5. Bonanno family. The Bonanno crime family, formerly known as the Maranzano crime family, is a significant member of the American Mafia, one of the classic crime syndicates. Its origins may be traced back to Salvatore Maranzano, but after his assassination, the keys were passed to Lucky Luciano, who oversaw the Bonanno family's expansion. However, the Castellamarese War began in 1930, sparked by a disagreement over bootleg booze seized by Joe Masseria and growing into a deadly war. The Castellamarese group, commanded by Niccolo Schiro and, subsequently, Salvatore Maranzano, was attempting to seize control of New York's underworld during this time. Maranzano won, establishing 5 Cosa Nostra families: Luciano, Mangano, Gagliano, Profaci, and Maranzano. He also took on the title of Boss of Bosses. Nonetheless, Luciano interfered. Maranzano was deposed, and the commission emerged as the arbitrator of mafia matters. Joseph Bonanno was chosen to lead the Maranzano family, which was afterward renamed the Bonanno dynasty. At the age of 26, Bonanno became the nation's youngest mafia boss, pushing the family into illicit gaming, loan sharking, and drugs with the support of the Buffalo criminal family, which gained power in Canada. A defining aspect of the Bonanno family's character was its adherence to the old-world values of honor, respect, and dignity. Under Bonanno's leadership, membership was limited to Castellamarese Sicilians. This strict adherence maintained the family's closely knit status. Bonanno fostered relationships with fellow bosses such as Joe Profaci, solidifying his standing in the commission. However, tensions arose within the family due to Bonanno's absence and political maneuvers, culminating in the infamous Bonanno War. Bonanno escaped to Montreal, leaving his subordinate Joseph Magliocco to face the commission's fury. This was a shift from the ideals Bonanno had previously advocated. Before Bonanno's comeback and eventual retirement in 1968, the family underwent a 2-year internal feud, heralding the conclusion of the Bonanno War. Several leaders followed, but the family suffered losses before rising to become the most powerful in New York at the turn of the millennium. Michael "the Nose" Mancuso is the current head of the Bonanno family. Mancuso was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Despite his incarceration in 2022 for breaking his parole conditions, Mancuso remains the Bonanno family's leader. Number 6. Chicago Outfit. The Chicago Outfit, a well-known and long-lasting criminal organization, has a history that is entwined with the rise of organized crime in the United States. The outfit emerged as a force during the Prohibition era, participating in a variety of criminal operations and becoming identified with the city's underworld. The Chicago Outfit had its origins in the early 20th century when Italian immigrant groups in Chicago began organizing into criminal syndicates. The outfit rose to prominence under the leadership of renowned personalities, such as Al Capone, profiting from the lucrative trade in bootlegged booze during Prohibition. This time cemented the outfit's reputation for ruthlessness and control over illegal enterprises. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929 was one of the most memorable fights involving the Chicago outfit. In order to assassinate competitor George "Bugs" Moran, Al Capone's thugs staged a lethal ambush that resulted in 7 murders. The slaughter spree exposed the outfit's harsh methods and Capone's grasp on power to national notice. The outfit was embroiled in several internal power struggles and foreign battles in the years that followed, demonstrating its durability and flexibility. Rivalries with other criminal organizations, as well as conflicts inside the outfit itself, contributed to a series of attacks and power upheavals. According to recent allegations, Salvatore "Solly" De Laurentiis is the boss of the Chicago outfit. De Laurentiis, who was born in 1939, joined the outfit's ranks in 1989. His responsibilities grew to include directing activities in Lake County, Illinois. However, De Laurentiis, along with numerous other high-ranking outfit members, were charged in the Good Ship Lollipop case in 1993. The Cicero Street crew was responsible for mob attacks in this case. De Laurentiis was later sentenced to 17 years in jail and released in 2007. De Laurentiis ascended to the position of head in 2014. De Laurentiis' ascension to the post of boss was a continuation of the outfit's tradition, demonstrating the organization's capacity to regenerate leadership despite years of jail and law enforcement pressure. Number 7. Colombo family. The Colombo family, formerly known as the Profaci family, dates back to the aftermath of the Castellamarese War. Profaci and Magliocco took over after Maranzano's death, which Lucky Luciano engineered. However, the Profaci family endured turbulence, including a disagreement between the Gallo brothers in 1959. Magliocco took over after Profaci passed away due to cancer in 1962, continuing the internal conflict. However, Magliocco's relationship with Joseph Bonanno, who plotted murders against the commission, put him in a precarious position. Bonanno left Magliocco alone to face the commission, revealing the conspiracy through Joseph Colombo. Colombo's betrayal broke the family relationships, forcing Magliocco to resign. Colombo took over as leader, and the Profaci family became the Colombo family. Colombo was the youngest New York Mafia boss and the first to be born in the United States. His leadership tried to stabilize the family, which was riven by internal strife. To combat prejudice, he created the Italian-American Civil Rights League in the year 1970. This effort, on the other hand, drew undesired attention. Colombo's leadership encountered challenges, mainly owing to the Gallo brothers' disobedience. Conflicts with Joe Gallo sparked a second battle. The League's rallies drew criticism, resulting in an assassination attempt on Colombo. He survived but remained paralyzed for the next 7 years, until the passing of natural causes in 1978. Following his incapacity, Persico took over as leader, with his brother Alphonse serving as acting boss. Following Alphonse's incarceration, Victor Arena was designated acting leader for the time being. Arena's effort to grab power provoked strife, resulting in the Third Colombo War, a series of conflicts. Numerous casualties occurred, and the Colombo family experienced turmoil at this time. Carmine Persico, a pivotal player in the family's history, passed away in jail in 2019. Andrew "Mush" Russo took over as CEO, but he also passed away in 2022. While the present leadership is questionable, the Colombo family continues to be an active entity. Number 8. Detroit Mafia. The Detroit Mafia, often known as the Detroit Outfit, has a long history in the annals of organized crime in the United States. This criminal organization emerged from the shadows of Prohibition and has weaved its power into the fabric of Detroit's underground, engaging in many unlawful operations and establishing a reputation for ruthlessness and cunning. The Detroit Partnership dates back to the early 20th century, with Italian immigrants serving as the organization's foundation. The ability to profit from the illegal alcohol trade became a motivation for the developing criminal industry as Prohibition gained root. The city's strategic location near the Canadian border encouraged smuggling activities and the creation of speakeasies, allowing the partnership to gain substantial riches and influence. The infamous River Wars was an important struggle in the history of the Detroit partnership. In the early 1930s, the group was involved in violent clashes with other factions for control of the lucrative Detroit River smuggling routes. The partnership, commanded by important people such as Joseph Zerilli and William Black Bill Taco, triumphed, cementing its hold over the region's criminal operations. The Detroit partnership has encountered hurdles in recent years as law enforcement has increased its attempts to destroy organized criminal networks around the country. The syndicate endured waves of arrests and prosecutions, resulting in a shift in leadership and internal dynamics. Despite the turmoil, the Detroit partnership persevered, adjusting to shifting conditions and retaining its position in the criminal underground. According to recent rumors, Jackie the Kid Giacalone has taken over as the new head of the Detroit Mafia, moving into a post with an 83-year legacy. Giacalone's rise to prominence marks a continuation of the family tradition, as he follows in the footsteps of his father and uncle, both of whom were essential in the criminal empire's development. A number of important appointments have distinguished Giacalone's leadership, demonstrating his attempts to preserve stability and control inside the business. Anthony Chicago Tony LaPiana has been designated his underboss, Peter Specs. Tocco has been named his street boss, and Anthony Tony Pal Palazzolo has been named his interim consigliere, with the possibility of a permanent post in the near future. Number 9. Lucchese family. Originally known as the Profaci family, the Lucchese family's origins date back to the aftermath of the Castellamarese War. During the restructuring overseen by Maranzano, Galliano was given control of the old Reina organization, with Lucchese as his underboss. Galliano and Lucchese steered the family to riches throughout the 1930s and 1940s, mainly in the trucking and apparel businesses. Galliano kept a low profile, preferring to communicate through Lucchese. Gagliano was able to avoid the spotlight because of his unassuming manner. Because nothing is known about Gagliano's later life, the shift from Gagliano to Lucchese as a leader is uncertain. Despite this, Lucchese assumed control, directing the family along Gagliano's established course. The Lucchese family profited enormously under Lucchese's leadership, becoming one of the most prosperous in New York. Lucchese formed intimate relationships with powerful politicians and legal officials, strengthening the family's influence. While Lucchese's public presence waned, he fostered the well-being of his subordinates in order to foster loyalty and confidence. Lucchese's period also saw Genovese and Gambino come to prominence in their own families. However, tensions between Genovese and Gambino increased over time, resulting in Genovese's incarceration on narcotics charges. With Genovese out of the picture, Lucchese and Gambino took over the commission. Lucchese remained active until his demise in 1967, having never faced incarceration during his 44-year rule. During his leadership, the Lucchese family's power grew, with a foothold in East Harlem and the Bronx and over 200 members. The Lucchese family suffered a dark time in the late 1980s under Vittorio Vic Amuso's harsh leadership, supported by Anthony Gaspipe Casso. Their rule was one of the bloodiest times in Mafia history. Disputes over the Jersey crew's wages led to Amuso and Casso demanding the crew's annihilation, generating the notorious Whack Jersey order. The Jersey crew members rushed into hiding in order to avoid Amuso and Casso's lethal instructions. The dictatorship of Amuso and Casso was marked by a series of killings and executions aimed at suppressing perceived informants. Ironically, these acts compelled some targets to become spies, jeopardizing the family's anonymity. The family power struggle and failed attempts to neutralize perceived threats developed an environment of suspicion and deceit. The Lucchese family remained in business over the years, however, under different leadership. Notably, Amuso stayed in charge even while in prison. Amuso's rise to dominance began with him working as an enforcer for Joe Gallo. He then joined the Lucchese family and ascended through the ranks. In his final role as supervisor, he oversaw a ruthless system that resulted in internal turmoil and informants. Despite the upheaval and leadership changes, the Lucchese family perseveres. Today, Vittorio Vic Amuso supervises the family from behind bars. Number 10. Philadelphia Mafia. The Philadelphia crime family, often known as the Philadelphia Mafia or Philly Mob, has a long and illustrious history that is inextricably linked to the growth of organized crime in the United States. The family, which emerged in the early 20th century, was one of the most powerful and persistent criminal groups, exercising influence not only inside the city, but also across the country. The Philadelphia crime family dates back to the Prohibition era, when the illegal alcohol trade provided a rich opportunity for industrious criminals. The majority of the organization's members were Italian immigrants from Sicily. The family swiftly became a key role in a variety of illegal operations, including bootlegging, gambling, loan sharking, and labor union manipulation. The deadly Castellamarese War of the early 1930s, a struggle for domination inside the American Mafia, was a watershed episode in the family's history. The Philadelphia crime family, led by the fearsome Salvatore Sabella, fought alongside the Castellamarese faction against the forces of Joe the Boss Masseria. The final triumph of the Masseria side, backed by Charles Lucky Luciano, was a watershed moment, paving the way for the formation of a more organized mafia organization under the Five Families of New York. Despite internal power struggles and law police crackdowns, the Philadelphia crime family has retained its dominance throughout the years. The group was involved in a variety of illicit operations, reinforcing its reputation for violence and devious tactics. Angelo Bruno and Nicodemo's Little Nicky Scarfo were important characters in creating the family's identity. The family's wealth began to dwindle in the late 20th century, however, when a succession of indictments, along with internal struggles, eroded its grip on power. Rival groups fought for dominance, resulting in a period of unrest marked by betrayals and violence. Despite the difficulties, the family managed to live, but with lessened strength. The Philadelphia crime family's leadership has shifted in recent years. Mikey Lance Lancelotti rose to prominence in the organization's structure. Lancelotti is claimed to have a low-key leadership style that is focused on sustaining the family's primary operations, such as illicit gambling and loan sharking. While his ascent to prominence may not have received the same amount of public exposure as some of his forefathers, his impact within the criminal underground is significant. The Philadelphia crime family has new obstacles in adjusting to the changing environment of criminal activity as law enforcement agencies continue their attempts to destroy organized crime networks.